human journey.
Hi and welcome. I am so glad you joined us. We are in Sedona, Arizona at a conference about human triumph. This is sponsored by the At One Group, great people. And while we were here, we met the amazing Michelle Powers. She's live and in person, and her husband Shiloh made a great video. I want you to watch this incredible video.
My husband calls me an extra small medium because I'm pretty tiny. But honestly, I hate labels. I've always hated labels. So I just want to be me. I'm just me. I'm Michelle Powers, and I was born with some really amazing gifts of being able to see and hear and communicate with angels. Growing up, I thought it was normal. I thought everyone must see what I see, and everyone must hear these voices all the time. I remember when I was about in first grade, I asked my best friend about this angel that I could see, and she was like, "What in the world are you talking about?"
She empowers you. She doesn't say, "Come to me for my wisdom and my gifts, and I will help you." That is not ever what she has taught or who she is. It's like she's a mirror, and she just holds up that mirror and says, "Look at who you are. Look at who God is. Listen to your own heart. Listen to yourself. Look at all this love around you."
Michelle embodies the things that every mom wishes they could say about their daughter, and she uses her gifts for good.
I think the biggest thing is her compassion, though, that she has for people and for their feelings.
I just felt inspired to tell everyone I still am her biggest fan. I know that the things she does and the things she can see and the things she can hear are real.
We are surrounded with so much help, so much love, and so much support. And our angels and our family members that have gone before us, they're with us, and they love us, and they support us.
I was 4 years old when my dad passed away. I've always wondered what he thinks and says. Michelle told me that my dad said to not forget that you're a powerful woman and that you really are caring and nurturing towards people, and to also remember my intuition about myself, and to remember that there's just an army surrounding me when I feel always alone.
Michelle's got the spiritual gift to be able to help people talk to their family members or hear from God or hear from whoever that they need to hear from to get their life back on track. But really, it's just a tool. What are you going to do with that information you got? Are you going to just brush it off your shoulder? Or are you going to take that information and use it and hold it dear to you, and honor those people that are watching over you? Honor the loved ones that went before you.
We have angels all around us. They want to help us, and we have to learn how to ask. We came here with these amazing, brilliant spirits inside of us that know so much. And when we're disconnected, that's when we are running around searching for answers everywhere. But really, the answer's in us. I truly just want to continue to help people, to connect people with truth, and help others to really connect with why they're here. And when you connect with that truth, then you are set free.
Awesome. Michelle, that was really good. The video you guys put together, super good. Shiloh did a great job.
Thank you.
And you talk about connecting in there. You are a person that has a sensitivity you can feel and hear and see. Tell me about how this came about in your life.
It all started when I was a little girl, and I was about 2 years old, and I had an experience where I saw an angel that was with me and helping me and motivating me. And I'd just gotten done with a lot of surgeries on my legs, and I had to develop the strength in my legs, and that angel showed up and helped me to just stay motivated and get strong.
Yeah. Now, Michelle puts together a presentation. She's a keynote speaker. Your presentation was powerful and moving. And I came from a faith-based tradition. that told me that God and angels were beings that were in the heavens, but weren't necessarily something that you could communicate to. You were supposed to go through the channels of Jesus to God. And the angels, we weren't really given the narrative that we were supposed to talk to them, even though we were taught that they were guardian angels. You've had an experience where you can actually physically talk and have conversations with other dimensional beings. And
Yes.
so that, to some people, they're like, "Ooh," the crazy alert goes off. To other people, they're shaking their head right now going, yep, yep. So you've probably had the whole spectrum of people. Tell me about your experience and how you've developed from a little girl. Well, you share the freshman experience where you had a loved one die. So that probably changed things.
Yeah, because in school, I learned to keep it inside. I learned to not share my experiences because the way that people responded when I shared those experiences, they would look like scared or worried about those experiences that I shared. And so I learned to just keep those things inside.
Like the school nurse.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're like, "Hey, I'm seeing angels," and her response was probably not supportive.
Yes, no, that I needed mental help or something,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you run. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have a loved one, a classmate that dies.
Mhm.
How was that experience? Did you have a communication there?
I did. So I had a friend who had passed. He had taken his life my freshman year in high school. And so when we went to the funeral, the pastor that stood up to speak just said, "He's no longer with us and we'll never see him again." And, you know, all of these high school kids are grieving. We're all grieving together. The whole entire family in the front row is grieving tremendously. And he shows up right next to me and is asking me, "Tell my family I'm okay. I'm at peace. I'm happy. I'm okay."
Wow. Oh, that's powerful. So what did you do? Did you run right over there and talk to him?
I didn't know how they would respond.
Yeah.
And I thought they could either think I'm crazy or they could think, "Wow, that's great," or they wouldn't believe me,
Yeah.
you know? And I was in a place where I had gotten so good at hiding my gift that I just kept it inside, and I continued to keep that inside all the way till my senior year. And I finally had just a moment where I saw one of their family members and I told them what had happened and asked them if they feel the time is right to share that with their family members. And I don't know how well it was received or not, but
Yeah.
I knew that it needed to be shared with someone.
Yeah. Now you had a grandmother also that had sensitivity. Is that accurate?
Hmm.
So tell us about that and how that was kind of in your family already.
My dad's mom is very sensitive. She was always having experiences, and she would tell me about them and I would tell her about my experiences, and she was really the one I could go to and talk to. And even my mom's mom is really sensitive. She's had a few experiences too. And so I could go to them and I could share all the things that I was seeing or feeling or hearing, and they just never looked at me like I was crazy. They were like, "That's amazing."
So you were supported by family then. How about your mother and father? How'd they?
Both of them, I think they kind of worried about me, and I didn't understand why until I was a little bit older, that they were worried that because of my experiences, maybe it meant that I was going to be crossing over soon.
Oh.
And I never even thought about that. I thought, wow, I never thought about that, but I knew that when I shared things with them, they got this worried look on their face.
Oh, because they then figured, well, then she's going to die, and they didn't want their kid to die.
Exactly. Because
Wow.
I'd had an experience when I was just a couple days old where they almost lost me and I needed to be revived. And so then they just thought, you know what, she's so fragile, you know, and she might be going soon.
Yeah.
And so sharing those little experiences that I had, they thought, okay, this might be.
Do you think you had a death experience or a near-death experience as an infant?
I did, yeah.
Oh. You know, I hear a lot, I've studied a lot about near-death experiences, and I hear a lot about people crossing over and coming back, and then they have more perception or more sensitivity. Do you think maybe that's something that's related to your situation?
Yeah, it feels like the door didn't close all the way.
Yeah.
You know, and I just was more sensitive than maybe some other people are, you know. And then after I had children, it felt like that door opened just a little bit wider and a little bit wider with each one, because I got more and more sensitive with each child.
Yeah. And do you feel like your kids are part of, do they have any sensitivity or?
Yeah, I have one child who sees auras around people, and he's been able to see that since he was really little. And and he didn't know what it was. He would just say, "Mom, there's green all around that person. Mom, there's blue all around that person." And would point that out when he was just tiny. And he still has that sensitivity now.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So you go through high school and you probably don't want people to point you out or whatever. Do you kind of keep on the down low through those years?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get out of high school. Did you go into college or did you just start in the workforce? Or?
Yeah, I moved to Salt Lake City. So from Montana, I moved down to Salt Lake City, Utah. My plan was just dive into school, start going to school. I was going to be a therapist, like a child. I knew I wanted to work with people. But when I started looking into that field, I'm like, that is just not, I really want to be more heart-based and really connect with people and their spirit, and, you know, really connect with people, not we're asking specific questions. And, you know, I wanted to do it my own way. But then I met my future husband like right away, and we hit it off, and I'm like, I don't think I really want to go to school. I think I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to make it my own.
Yeah. And so you and that was Shiloh. So you and Shiloh are starting to date, and did you just full disclosure, hey, I talked to angels?
No way. I told him a couple of little things. I said, I've had some experiences that, you know, where I'm really sensitive and I can feel a loved one sometimes with people. And he was like, okay, that kind of freaks me out. I really don't want to talk about that, you know? And so I just was like, okay.
So you started getting that feedback. You're like, oh, okay, I like this guy. I don't want to scare him off.
Exactly.
All right. So you kind of like probably just were kind of on the down low with
Yep. I thought I'll wait till I know that he's sticking around to tell him everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, I want to talk about that. In fact, I'm going to have Shiloh come on, and we want to get his perspective in a little bit.
Okay.
But that is so fascinating. So as you're going through and you're doing life and you start a family and you have kids, at some point you have to come out of the closet and let that known. How did that work for you on your insides? You know, like, I've got to be authentic. How did that work for you? Were you like doing, you know, kind of like pulling people to the side? Or?
Yeah, I did. I would, if I felt like someone had a loved one with them that had a message, I would take them to the side, because number one, I wanted it to be private, and I wanted to let them know that this is a really sacred experience. It's not something that I use as entertainment or anything.
Sure.
It's just really sacred.
It's so good, because I do know people that use it as entertainment.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is really important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you pull somebody aside, you have a message for them. Is it, do you put it into a category of mediumship, or do you put it into just a spiritual sensitivity? How do you classify it? Your abilities?
Yeah, spiritual, intuitive, you know. I've always had this understanding and this knowing. I mean, some people would say medium, some people would say an intuitive. I don't know.
Spiritual sensitive.
Never,
I like that. That's kind of a nice way to define that. And that's kind of the way that fits you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you have so much depth. You know, I want people to hear your story, to understand who you are, and then I want you to give the ability to share a lot of the learning and understanding. I learned so much from your talk. Just the classifications, archangels versus angels versus spirit guides, and whoo! So there's a lot more to come. I'm really excited. Give me a kind of a synopsis of your human experience as you've continued this journey. I mean, the show that I'm excited about is exploring the human journey. So what are the things that you had to go through, some of those trials or struggles or questions, and how did you take your gift and use that to help you through that?
Well, I know when I was little and I was learning how to deal with all my physical struggles I was having. I was born with a lot of complications. And I remember with all those things that I was dealing with where I felt like I didn't fit in, I had a hard time walking and running and being normal like the other kids. But then I also had these gifts that also set me apart from the other kids. And so I remember going to my grandmother one day and just telling her, I do not fit in on this planet, like at all. I'm not like any of my other friends. I'm weird. Then I have all these issues. I just don't know how for sure I fit in. And she said, well, what if all of these things are helping you to be who you're meant to be? What if they're giving you strength? What if they're helping you to develop these gifts, And what if you didn't have all these issues? Maybe they wouldn't give you the learning that you needed. And maybe this is part of your journey. And I was like, At first I kind of thought she was crazy because I'm like, no, I did not ask for any of these things. They've been like a curse, and they've been huge trials. But throughout my life, I've seen how every single one of these things have made me more sensitive and helped me to really tap into other people and have a deep understanding and a deep love for other people because of my own struggles,
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's beautiful. Now, part of my religious heritage was good versus evil. Did you have a religious heritage like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was taught there was the good angels and God side, and then the bad devil and demon side. Were you given a similar narrative?
Yes.
Okay. So anybody that could communicate with spiritual forces were automatically lumped in with witchcraft and said, oh, it's of the devil. Did you have anything in your past like that?
I had a few people approach me like that, and still, people question, like, if you're doing this, it might not be that you're tapping into something good. And I just tell them, if it's bad, they're telling me to do a lot of good things and help a lot of people and heal a lot of hearts.
Well, whoever those people are not telling me to do bad things. They're telling me to do good things.
Exactly.
I love it. So give the viewer listeners some ideas of things. Give me some stories or some anecdotes of situations you've been in and types of information you've given people, the kind of work that you do.
So when I sit down and work with people, my main goal is to help them to really connect with their own spirit or their higher self so that they can connect with who they really are and what their purpose is here on the earth. And then also teach them how to connect with their own loved ones and their own guides that are around them. It's so important for you personally and for everyone to have their own connection. Because if you don't have that, you're running around to other people your whole life trying to get answers. And I want to empower people to be able to get their own answers, because that's why we're here.
Yeah.
We really need to learn how to connect.
Yeah, I like that, because a lot of people are like, you have to come to me each week and pay me a fee and do it. And you're like, let me show you how you can do this.
Exactly.
So what are some of the things that people have come to you in tears, and I have a loved one, and maybe somebody close to me died, and you're like, yeah, they're next to me. Oh, I also heard you talk about pets too. So integrate some of the work that you've done and how people have come to you in some of those situations.
So people come to me usually because they lost a loved one and they just don't know how to move forward. They're completely stuck in their life. They feel like they want to give up in life, and they don't see themselves having a future. And so when I sit down with them, we just start from where they're at right then and there. And we just start talking about the things that they are feeling and really connecting to their heart, because a lot of times we put up walls to protect ourselves. And we slowly pull down those walls and really start connecting to their heart and what they're trying to hide or what they're doing to protect their own heart. And then we bring in their loved ones, and I teach them to learn how to connect so that those loved ones can really help them to heal on a deeper level, and then they can help them to connect to their spirit and their purpose. And it's a beautiful journey to just see those people reconnect and learn how to heal themselves, so they feel empowered.
So you kind of did some education when you did your keynote. You talked about angels have kind of different hierarchies. You talked about archangels, and you talked about spirit guides. So for the viewers and listeners, tell me about kind of how you've learned and broken those down into kind of categories or rankings, if you will.
So throughout my life, I would see different brightnesses in angels. You know, I would see them show up as different sizes, their light would be different. And so but I didn't ever know if I could ask. I didn't know if I dare ask. I just was grateful for the experience. But one day I felt like I could ask, and I was taught by my angels who these angels were and what they did. And I was taught that the bright angels in the corner of the room, usually they would stand in the corner, and I don't know why, but maybe that's just how they showed up to me. But they were big and bright, and I was told they were over all the angels, and they were archangels. And that they are supporting the other angels and helping them. And then I was taught about guardian angels, and I was told that every single person has guardian angels assigned to them when they're born on this earth.
Wow.
And then I was taught about spirit guides, which I had seen throughout my whole life. That's probably those are the angels that I saw the most, because these are family members. And they oftentimes are assigned to people, but sometimes they request to be with certain loved ones because they have such a close connection. And then we have an abundance of angels, and they're just everywhere. And they're trying to help us with all the little details in our lives that we need to help with. So we have so much help, and I really want people to understand just how much help we're surrounded with every day.
I love the way you said that people think that when their loved ones have died, well, I'll see them someday in the future, but until then, there's no connection. And you're like, no, they're here with you all the time. Give some presence to that.
There's no separation between us and our loved ones. Heaven is right here, all around us. And I find that so comforting to know that. And it's a huge part of my message just to share with people that our loved ones are right here. They know what our daily life is like. They love us. There's no judgment whatsoever. They're just loving us and honoring our journey. It's amazing.
That made me laugh so hard when this lady asked you in the group. She goes, "Does that mean they can see us when when we're naked?" And you're like, they don't really care. So, for the people that are thinking that right now, tell them about that.
They don't see us in that light, you know. They don't see our physical body like we do. They do see our light, they see our energy, they see our heart, but they don't see these physical bodies, and they don't have those same concerns that we have. It's just so different. I just thought there was a moment of levity when the room kind of started all snickering, because we're all thinking, do our loved ones see us when we're in the shower? I mean, do I have to think about it? Because I remember a Bible verse that says we have around us a cloud of witnesses, and I was like, oh, does that mean they're all watching me? Exactly.
So that was funny. There are many questions that people come up with, and they ask you, and they're just, some of them are the heart-wrenching, "Well, I see my loved ones again." You're like, yes, you'll see them again. What are some of the things that people ask you that you want to say, every single time I talk with somebody, they ask me these same things? What are some of those things that you can think of?
I think one of the biggest questions is if my loved one will forgive me. A lot of people come to me and say, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have been there for them before they passed, I wasn't there, and they have all these regrets. But our loved ones, they see us in a whole new light, and they see everything that goes on in our life. So they have such a great understanding and such a pure love and an unconditional love for us. So there isn't a judgment that they hold against us. There aren't these grudges that we hold maybe against other people here. And so I want people to know that they can let go of that, that fear, that worry of worrying, are my family members upset with me? And they're not. They're in a place that is peaceful, and there's unconditional love, so they just love. And I think another question is, of course, if I'm ever going to be with my loved one again, and some people say, are there different levels? Like, do I have to be perfect, like be with my loved one in a certain place? I've had people ask me that. I've had people ask if they'll be with their pets again, because some people, that's a huge part of their life, is their pets.
Yeah.
And pets are so loyal, and they have this unconditional love, and they continue to be with you. If they have that soul connection with you here, they transition and they're with you again. And I see pets with people all the time.
That's incredible. So there are people that, number one, they think that when they get done with this life, oh, good, this life's over. Then I get my eternal reward. And I'm starting to learn they believe in kind of a spiritual welfare, where they believe they don't necessarily have to do anything but trust in the faith system they were given. And then they'll go on and get everlasting paradise and reward, whatever that faith-based system was. So from what you've experienced, is it a continual progression of enlightenment and growing, or is it this is your one chance to live and then you go to eternal reward or punishment? Well, how do you feel about that?
There is a continual progression, and as soon as you cross over, a lot of people will go to a place of healing. It depends on how they passed. And so people that might have died in a traumatic accident or went through some really hard times before they passed, they go to a place of healing. And then they're given time to heal as long as they need. But then as soon as they're ready, they can start their progression. And what's really incredible is that they continue to learn from us.
Oh.
And so it's not just them helping us all the time. They learn from us, especially our family members. They will learn from our experiences that we have every single day. And it's good and bad experiences, even things that when we make mistakes in our life, they're learning from that experience. And the reason why is because sometimes they didn't learn and grow from that situation here on the earth. And maybe there are things that they didn't overcome when they were here, but they have the opportunity to still progress and make changes there. And so they get to learn from their family members here.
Incredible. Now, if there's light in total goodness, there's darkness in total blackness. Have you had an experience with negative energy, demon energy, for lack of a better term? And maybe can you give me some presence to what that energy is? I don't really believe in a single entity called the devil with his demons, but I do believe in negative energy. So kind of give some presence to that.
I've had some experiences where I felt like there were some negative energies around, that weren't of light or not the beings that I'm used to feeling. And so I've tuned into them a few times just to kind of see what was going on. And my experience has been that these were people that chose not to cross over yet. So their spirits are in a place between here and heaven. And most of them didn't cross over because they were fearful, maybe of God's judgment.
Wow.
Or different things that they held on to here, or things that they learned, here. And so they were waiting, or maybe they lived a life that was clear full of regrets. And so they don't feel worthy. They just don't.
Oh, shame and guilt and unworthiness.
Yeah.
The arch enemy to the human soul.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
As I've studied a lot of near-death experiences, I've heard that there's two cases where people refuse to cross over. And one is the devout Christian that believes it's the devil trying to trick them. And the other is the devout atheist that says, well, I can't be dead because I'm still here. Because I was taught when I'm dead, it's lights out. How do you give presence to an entity crossing over and going into the light? But yet remaining here? To explain that.
Well, it's all about choice. We still have choice and accountability. That never goes away. That's something that we'll always have. We'll be able to make choices. And I feel like we all have those opportunities to continue to make these choices. If we're not ready to cross over, we can take all the time that we need to cross over. But it usually is because they feel like there's a reason why they just can't do it, or there's fear holding them back. But they all have that chance to do that, to cross over. And I've actually prayed for some souls. I've had some that I felt around me that I knew were in between. And I spoke to them and told them, it's time to cross over. You're in a place in between and you need to move forward and look for angels of light around you. And they did, and they were able to cross over.
Wow, that is so cool. Can you see, is it energetic, or is it like a vision, or is it your imagination?
I could see them.
Wow, like physically
Yeah.
you can see that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I could hear their messages.
Wow. And was it like fear and unworthy? I mean, what was their
Yeah,
thing?
this one was very fearful, was taught that you just fear God and that you fear, that being. And so they just didn't feel worthy to go.
Oh, that is incredible. Wow. So the human experience, we're here. What do you think our purpose is for having this human experience? And do you think we've been here before and will be hereafter?
I think that my experience has been that I was here before, but in another form, like an angel, and assisting other beings here. And I was experiencing life through other people's eyes beforehand. So that's my experience. That's my knowing.
That's awesome.
Just from what I've realized for myself. And I think other people have had that experience. And then here, I know that we're here because it's a time of being able to really have faith. And I call this a faith walk that we're on here. That we are learning to believe in things that we cannot see. We're separated from, in a sense, we feel this separation from our loved ones. They're really here, but we need to learn how to have faith and believe that they're here helping us. And it's just our time for learning and growth and choosing our own path and creating the life that we want. And we're here to become empowered and really connect with who we are. And I think that's just a huge part of why we're here. And love, that's what the angels tell me over and over and over, that love is that if we were to do nothing else here on this earth but learn how to love, that we would accomplish everything that we were meant to.
Incredible. Yeah, I hear that over and over again, that it just comes back to that unconditional love of being able to accept someone else without having to need something from them to help you. It's just unconditional love, which I think is probably the most difficult thing for a human being to want to do, that has an ego that says me first and I have goals and I want to achieve, but being able to say, I love you and I want you to be a part of my life.
Exactly.
There's many people in our lives that can be a challenge. So if you're with someone, a loved one, a family member that is a constant challenge, how have you learned to integrate unconditional love, either through your experience or through messages you've received?
A lot of times I'll feel like those people that are kind of in a place of struggle, that they'll almost pull energy from me because I'm so sensitive energy-wise. And I will ask my angels to surround me and just protect my energy. And what I ask is for them to feel my love. So I only want to give love, and I only want to receive their love. But it's like a barrier or protection. And then the messages that come through for them is just for these people to, connect with who they really are and go on a journey discovering who they really are, because that's what we need to figure out here on this earth. We need to learn who we really are, why we're here, and we'll never feel completely fulfilled until we answer those questions.
Yes, I love that. And you gave presence. My favorite thing to say is, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And you said that. I was like, yes. Because too many times we get stuck into, this is who I am. I'm this race and I'm this gender and I'm, this is my job and that's my identity. How do you give presence to that for people, of who our true being is?
We are spirits, and through God's eyes or your creator or whoever you believe in, that's what they see in us, is just that we are all equal. We are all one, and we're all on the same level. No one's higher than the other. And we are here to help each other and to learn how to love unconditionally. And I just feel like, we're here to really see each other through those unconditional loving eyes, and lose that judgment and help each other on this journey,
Now, Shiloh was sharing with me that when you had a birth of your child and you were taking some medication, it kind of dulled your senses, and he gave presence to it as maybe it lowered your vibration. Can you talk about that and how substances can affect us and your sensitivity specifically?
Yeah, through my situation, I was just going through postpartum. I just had a baby, and it was just maybe a couple months afterwards. For some reason, it just hit me a couple months after my baby was born, and I just fell into this deep, deep depression. And so, I looked for natural means for help, and nothing was really helping. And so I got on medication, and it numbed me out completely. I couldn't hear as clearly. I couldn't see anything. But I felt like, well, I need this so that I can function in life,
Yeah.
And so it was a balancing act. It was like, okay, I'm going to choose to just be able to get through my day and get things done and be able to take care of my kids, or have these gifts. But it wasn't. It was like one or the other. And so I had to just work through that. But it gave me such a sense of gratitude for my gifts all over again. I was missing having that sensitivity, and I was grateful again for those gifts that I couldn't use,
Oh, man, that is incredible. Because so often people become medicated with whatever, and there's, things that they need to have medication for, but it does change that sensitivity, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It really does. Yeah. And that's, some people I felt that, some people that I've worked with that are self-medicating with drugs or alcohol or different things, that they are trying to numb out and disconnect from maybe gifts or things that it feels like their spirit is trying to wake them up to, or something that they feel like there's something there, but they have this fear because they don't understand what's going on. I know that's not always the case, but I've seen that with some people.
Yeah, that is incredible. Now, the work you do, give your website and give some of the things in the teaching that you do.
Okay, so it's MichellPowers.com, and there's no E on Michelle, so it's MichellPowers.com. And the work that I do is, the classes that I'm doing, the first section is it's Angels 101. So those 3 classes that are in Angels 101 talk about angels, the different angel groups, and then their purpose, the purpose of angels, why they're here, why they're helping us, and what they can do for us. And then the last class in that group of classes is called Communicating with Angels, and how to communicate with angels. And so I share what I've learned about how to really connect with your angels personally. And then I was taught how to teach people to go inward and really connect with who they really are. And so it's called Empowering You. Empowering You is another series of classes, and there's 7 of them. And the angels taught me that, we get so focused on angels and we're so fascinated with them and what they do, but they are fascinated with us and our journey, and they want to help us to reconnect with who we are. And so they gave me all of these lessons that helps us to reconnect with who we are, connect to our spirit, connect to our purpose, and recognize what our gifts are. And so through these 7 classes, they really just taught me how to help you to connect with your power, your purpose, learn how to speak up and speak your truth, learn how to trust your intuition, connect to your heart in a deeper way, and create the life that you want. And so through all those steps, you're doing that. You're becoming empowered yourself.
Oh, so good. You guys have to check out Michelle Powers' work. It is phenomenal. So I want to bring Shiloh in because there are many people that feel a sensitivity and they feel like I have an ability to contact, spirit on the other side, but I have a family member or a loved one or my community that absolutely doesn't understand it. And I want you guys to share your story of discovery. So I think I'm going to bring Shiloh on next. Awesome. We got Shiloh on set. Shiloh, you are hanging out with this angel in disguise as Michelle, and you meet her. How old were you guys when you met?
See, it was 1998, so I think I was 23 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in those young, I'm a dude, I'm doing stuff, and you meet this girl and you start hanging out with her. Did you know anything about the abilities to contact spirits?
No, she didn't tell me anything about it at
Yeah,
all.
that means she must have liked you then.
Yeah.
So you wanted, because you were saying you kind of like, this dude's kind of cool, I want to keep it kind of on the DL for now. And so you get married and did you talk then or was it before? Or?
I only remember experiences as being a negative experience for me because she would mention angels, but she wasn't. I kind of tease her now because I'm like, you didn't exactly put a bow on this package of I have these spiritual gifts like everyone gets now, right? Because I've made sure that mistake didn't happen again.
Yeah.
And the way I heard it was just that there were ghosts,
She says that in her keynote. She goes, "Yeah, I would say angels or spirits," and all he heard was ghosts. There's this negative connotation.
Right. I mean, so the first home we lived in after we were married, and she didn't really say hardly anything before we were married, which was about 8 months. I didn't hear about it, and now I know why. I mean, she didn't have the best experiences growing up, and so she felt like it just pushed people away. And we got married and we moved into what was my childhood home. My dad had moved out and we were able to stay there for reduced rent, right?
Sure, yeah.
so we stayed
economics.
there. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so in this home, as a child, you always hear ghosts or things in your house, creaks. And so if she had ever brought that up when we lived there, I definitely was going to just tune it out. And that was the first home we lived in, and it continued.
So it was framed as kind of scary. Anything other than what you're comfortable with was scary.
Right. She didn't come up to me and say, Shiloh, I've had a gift to see angels since birth. This whole experience that we're giving other people when we share it now, it was, there's an angel that lives in this home. Or, like I said, I heard a spirit or a ghost. I don't even remember hearing the word angel, to be honest. So she might have used the word spirit.
Spirit, yeah.
And I could only think of, going down the hall at night. It was just spooky to me. So I just would immediately shut it off and just, Michelle was used to that. She was used to, if someone doesn't like it, I keep my mouth shut. So.
And so were you married already at that point or you were together for a while?
Oh yeah, we were married at that point.
So you've been together for a while. Right. And then you move into another facility, old nursing home?
Yeah, it was a home that had been
because that's not creepy or anything. So what, you're flipping it, or is that what you're working on?
No, my dad married a gal, and she had inherited a bunch of properties, so I had the opportunity to go and remodel these properties, again, for reduced rent as a new married couple. Sure. We were always looking for a deal. Yeah, and you're a construction guy, right? Yes, I'm a general contractor, so... This was a nursing facility, and it had a long hallway, 100 feet long. And at night, from the kitchen to our bedroom, it seemed like an eternity by myself, especially knowing that there were spirits in the home. And I kind of wanted to get out of there.
And she verified that indeed there was entities in there otherworldly then.
Right. And now that I know, they're everywhere, right? Yeah. I mean, this isn't anything specific, but she didn't start off with telling me they're everywhere. She started off with one at a time, which was good. And I still didn't like to hear that. Yeah. I didn't.
So when did you get into the discovery conversation when she had to sit you down and talk? I mean, how did that work for you guys?
Well, first I want to tell one more home that we lived in. Yeah. We lived in another 1860s home. Oh, and so and in that home, so each home I just remember one specific event. And that one had a little girl that lived there, and I think she was the daughter to the owners that had lived there before. Now that we know, and she had passed away as a child, and so she still hung around the house. I guess she liked it, but none of this stuff is scary to me now, by the way.
So what was your perception at the time, though?
At the time,
Did you see or hear or feel anything?
Oh, I was scared to death. This home actually had a tunnel. Like, this is like
What?
it had a tunnel that went underground. It was like 30 feet, and it went into another part of the house, which was a nuclear fallout shelter with a full manual and everything. And I was working on that at the time, remodeling it into a theater. So it would be really nice.
Super cool.
Yeah,
Have the guys over for a game and climb through the tunnel.
Yeah. Well, you could walk through it. It wasn't climb, but it was really cool. I didn't like to think about spirits in that home. I mean, I couldn't have walked through that tunnel if I thought about it. And so again, I would just shut it off. So these experiences were all over the place. I think anybody could relate to that.
Yeah, you have to have a discussion at some point where you're like, okay, look. I mean, because you've probably kind of repressing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's got to be a weird situation for you because you have this communication.
Yep.
How would that work?
Well, for 13 years, I kept trying to bring it up. For 13 years, I would just share little experiences, and he didn't want me to talk about it. And then I'd share another little experience, and he'd be like, no, don't talk about it. And so 13 years later, we had an experience finally that...
Yeah, we were out with some friends. It was a New Year's Eve party, all families, a bunch of families went up to my friend's cabin, and my wife had a message from one of these spirit guides for a friend of mine. And I just sat back and listened. So I guess I was okay hearing about it because we're in a group of, it was a group. It wasn't, in one of my homes. I wasn't going to be afraid. So I guess I was just willing to be a little bit more open. And that definitely was the turning point. That was the thing that just switched everything that I'd ever thought in my life. That one night or moment. I don't know that the event was significant in any other way. Than for me, it's significant definitely to the gentleman who received the messages.
So she's talking to this guy about stuff, and what are you feeling, or what are you hearing?
Oh, the stuff she's talking about is that she could see these people. She knew the brother and the grandfather that was with this gentleman, and the messages they had, and it was just in a setting where I was willing to listen, and that went on for several hours, and everybody talked just like you normally would on a New Year's Eve party. All the kids had gone to bed at this point. And the next morning, I think it was the next morning, we always say we just stayed up all night, but it was the next morning when we were driving home, I remember asking her if all that was real. I was like, are you just yanking people's chain? Like, how in the world, like, do you really see angels?
Yeah.
Do you really see these spirits, and can you talk to them? And can you deliver messages? Because it seemed very real.
Mm-hmm.
But I just couldn't believe it. And she's like, yes, this is what I've been able to do my entire life. And my immediate thought was, why didn't you tell me sooner?
Surprise! Yeah.
And she was like, I tried telling you sooner. I'm like, no, you didn't, and it just didn't even dawn on me that, like I said, to me, it was, looking back at it now, I'm like, it was just not the package I needed to receive it in. Mm. And so finally, there was just that moment to be able to listen and trust, and it gave me just enough time to listen to the full experience, which I think anybody would need.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So for those people that are with a loved one that is arms crossed and you're crazy, what do you have to say to those people?
Just listen just long enough,
Yeah.
Because there's going to be truth in there. I mean, you can tell, and I can see it now. I'm my wife's biggest fan. Once I found out, once I listened, I wanted to tell everybody.
Yeah.
I was ready, and in fact, I did tell people, and I spoke up. Now I was the crazy one, that because I was on a construction site telling my workers about my wife who can see angels, and I knew that she could maybe help them because some of them maybe lost somebody, or there was a situation where they needed that, and it was awesome because it was very receptive. Maybe I was using a different way to present it to them, but I was surprised that it was like 95%, I would say, was well receptive, or more. I don't even know the 5% that wasn't, but I'm assuming.
Yeah. Wow, that is incredible. So the work that you're doing and the work that you're supporting her with. How do you integrate that in your family life with your kids and all of the stuff that you're doing?
You want to take that?
Yeah, our kids are just amazing. They're so supportive, and they're always out there telling their friends. I mean, I have a 16-year-old, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I talk to my friends about this stuff all the time." And some people think it's weird, and some people think it's awesome. And our 11-year-old, he's just wants to be around us when we're recording, and he wants to be a part of it, and he wants to hear about my classes. And a lot of this stuff they already know, but they just think it's so fascinating, and the whole process that, we're putting together these classes. And he's like, wow, it's so cool. And they want to see, the videos and the things that my husband's working on. So, but yeah, it's just it just naturally falls into our, family.
So you're like the chief marketing department now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have guys behind me, but that's one thing I notice, when people have a gift like Michelle's, just because you can see and talk to angels, and I think most people fall short on this, which is, it doesn't mean you have the ability to create websites and videos and marketing and all the things required in order to get people to give people the message the way you feel like it needs to be portrayed. It's been very difficult, right? You say you see angels, and the first thing is it's kooky and weird, and that's what you feel like at least people are going to think. And so to try to give people that vision of what I see, right, when I'm putting these videos together about how innocent she is and how trusting she can be and how loving she is, and I want people to really feel that through those videos and through every aspect of it, from what she says to what you see to the music you hear, everything, and I hope that's coming across the right way.
Oh, it's good. You guys are doing great work. So your faith-based construct of your lifespan, did you have the belief that it was you're born, you pay some bills, and you die, and that's it? Because that was the narrative I was given. Did you have a similar narrative yourself?
Right. Yes, I grew up with religion, and the choices you made here, and it was you had to pay or
get rewarded.
When you passed away, it was heaven or hell kind of thing. For sure.
How do you feel now?
Oh, I feel like I have a life without fear of death, without fear of like judgment or ridicule. I actually feel unconditional love now. It's hard to explain to people, because if you don't feel it, it's hard to even imagine that people can feel that. It's kind of emotional because I've gone through this huge roller coaster of growing up being taught to judge people, and not necessarily being taught, but where you felt like that. That's how you fit in, Whether
it's us versus them.
Whether someone was gay, whether someone was black. I mean, all the issues going on today. And you don't want to feel that way, but people do. And I didn't know that you could ever not feel that way. I didn't know that there was a path from being this judgmental person to not. Like, how do you change the way you feel about a group of people? I thought it was impossible. And I didn't even want, if my kids were hanging out with somebody who I didn't want them to, I was afraid. And I started to realize that I thought, okay, well, if they hang out with this person and they make the wrong choices, then they're going to go to hell. And then I won't be with them.
So you're so afraid of your kids and their peers and
Right. And Michelle's helped me understand that you're still progressing. And the things matter here on earth, believe me, because I've asked her about that. I'm like, well, then nothing matters because we can just keep progressing. And Michelle's told me that, no, because it's so much easier to progress here. She sees it on both sides.
So good.
And because we're here on earth, we have an opportunity to progress much quicker. After this life, she talks about there's no time or space. You can be very lazy about how fast you want to progress. And so she sees people linger for what would be decades or hundreds of years even, in the afterlife, where we can learn these lessons a lot quicker here. And so that experience for me has changed me, because I don't look at people with those judgments the same way, because I found out where that was my fear, was my kids hanging out with them, and they were going to go to hell. And it just doesn't exist. That's a complete myth. And it's taken, and I know that not everything here is on this podcast to teach people that.
That's why we're here, bro. Bring the heat. There's
a lot more to it, but after all of these experiences with my wife, because it's been, I think 7 or 8 years now since I finally started listening to her and understanding. Now I help her with all the lessons and everything.
It took 13 years for you to have the conversation. And after 7 or 8 years, you're starting to figure it out.
I'm starting to figure it out.
Well, I'm right with you. I was 45 years in the same mindset. Yeah.
It takes a while. Now, can it be done quicker, right? That's the goal. Can something be duplicated and does somebody have to wait that amount of time? And I don't think at all. I mean, I think it would take at the very least several weeks or months, but for sure.
Yeah, it's all part of that journey, though, of understanding, you can't get to the end of the journey unless you've started the beginning. Mm-hmm. And it's all that pathway that we're walking on. And I love the way you bring presence to that, because this is where the action is. That's what I've learned. Right. This is where the action is, because my faith-based system taught me, get out of here so you can get to heaven, and then you'll have eternal reward. And this is where the action is. All the people there go, yeah, this is where the action is. And they're guiding you because they're like, hey, we want to help you on your path. Right.
I'm actually excited about life now. I mean, even in the last 7 years, I've been so excited to be here on earth. I'm a real kind of adrenaline junkie. And so I even look at like heaven. I'm like, man, it sounds like earth is more fun. Like we're the superstars on the field or on the court.
Yeah.
And they're the fans like cheering us on.
Oh, dude, that is the best. That is such a good analogy.
Right. Thank you.
So you have said a couple things the way I have felt. You've articulated very well. You're more loving now. When you get rid of the fear of judgment, and you're like, oh, if you get it wrong, because I was in spiritual anxiety my whole life. Because, well, if I've got it right, what about those people? Oh, then I'm depressed because they're going to hell. But then I got to be afraid that they don't make my kids go to hell because, of course, we love our kids. And then I'm like, well, what if I'm wrong? What if the other religion that my neighbor has, what if he's right and I'm tricked? Oh, boy, then what if the devil's tricking me, and all that whole paradigm. Now that I've put that down and I've realized this isn't just you're either in or you're out. That's not what this is about. This is not some sort of cosmic game show. This is the experience of the human journey. And in that, I get to be here, and it makes me love everyone else. It doesn't matter who they are or what they are, because we're all one. We're all connected. We're all part of this big spiritual ball of unconditional love, and we're just in different areas that we can have that. Thank you for giving presence to that, because it is so good how your heart now opens up. When you live your life without fear, it's so much better. And then you're able to listen to someone that says, hey, I have connections from the other side. Oh, I don't have fear. Tell me about it. And they have a message for you. They do. What is it? I want to hear it. Before, I used to have to be of like, ooh, you might be tricking me. I had to cross my arms and hope that, I was okay. Put my force field on.
Right. And you mentioned that connection, by the way, with Michelle's classes and what she's teaching people and how to connect on your own. I don't go to my wife and be like, hey, give me another appointment or tell me more. In fact, I think I've only had one appointment, and she asked if she could help me one day. And I didn't even really care for that, because I've been going through all this and I figured out I can't see angels, but first of all, and I don't think I'll ever be able to. The night that I kind of learned all this, I tried. I did all the squinting. I looked. I did everything. I did every single thing that you could do to see that angel. And every time she sees them all the time. But if she mentions that they're in the room at that particular moment or something, I look for them, and I won't be able to see them probably ever. But I can definitely feel them. I know their messages. I know their presence now, and I didn't recognize it before. They probably were talking to me throughout my whole life, but I didn't recognize what that felt like. Michelle's classes and to going through all this information has taught me what those feelings are and what to look for, and it's very recognizable. For people that want to learn. It's not freaky or hokey or anything like that. I mean, you could do this anytime, 100 times a day. You could get help from angels and feel their help, and it just, no one would even know that you're doing it. You're not doing anything special. It's just that conscious awareness.
Yeah. So how do you have access to your angels? You talked about calling them to help you. How do you do that?
You can do it at so many different ways. You can do it in your mind. You can just have that thought of, angels, I need you. I need extra help right now. Some people have a hard time asking. And so writing a letter, just saying, okay, this is what I need help with. Being really specific. You can anytime you pray, you call on heaven at all, angels come to your aid. And so there's just a lot of ways to ask, but it's just even that thought, that simple thought, can have them come right to your side to help you.
Oh, you guys are so good. I love the work you're doing. Thank you for doing your work, and thank you for being you guys. Awesome.
Thank you.
So I like to end the episode with the guests, if there is more than one, telling the viewer, if there's one thing I want you to get from my message, it is this thing. So Michelle, if there's one thing you want people to hear from your work, what is that one thing?
That one thing would be to know that you are not alone. Your loved ones are with you. They're helping you every single day. And just taking a moment to just believe that, just feel that love that's around you, and know that you're never alone. You're just surrounded with love. That would be my key takeaway.
Awesome. I'm so glad I got to meet you guys in Sedona. I want to make sure I give presents to you too, because I know there's things that you have learned and grown through. So if there's one thing you want people to know about the spiritual world that you've learned, what is that one thing?
The one thing I want people to know is that, number one, it exists, like without a doubt, like 1,000%, like more than 1,000%, because I've got to be around it. I got to be around my wife. I know a lot of people have to take a little bit of time before they can trust the things she has to say. But if the thing she's saying is true, and that's the question that everybody's going to ask, is if what she's saying is true, then it will change the way you think about everything you've ever thought in your entire life. And I get to feel that now, and I love it. And I want other people to be able to feel that. So if you're not ready right now, just be patient. Just keep going on that journey. It takes a long time. It took me a way long time. And I want people to just be patient, but just keep searching, because there's something out there.
Yeah.
And it may not be through Michelle's message, but you're gonna find someone's message that you resonate with, which is important.
Yeah. Awesome. Shiloh, thanks for coming on and being a part of it. Michelle, thanks for the work you're doing.
Thank
you guys are wonderful. Check out michellepowers.com. Great work. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much.
I love it.
Yeah.
High five. Hit it. Boom.
Thank
Hit it.
you.
Boom.
I'm David Marsh, and you've been watching Exploring the Human Journey on YouTube as a video and listening as a podcast. If you would like to help continue the conversation, please consider supporting us by visiting patreon.com, where you can support us on a monthly basis and get extra bonus content. For as little as $1 a month, you can make this show sustainable and help continue spiritual consciousness. You can also help by following us on Facebook and Instagram. For more information about the show, find us online at exploringthehumanjourney.com.